The front door opened just after noon. The sound of a suitcase rolling across the floor echoed through the hallway, breaking the heavy silence that had filled the house for days. I didn't get up from my chair at the kitchen table. I just sat there. My cup of coffee had long ago gone cold, and the quiet in the house had actually started to feel strangely comfortable to me. It was like a soft blanket I had wrapped around myself. My wife, Natalie, stepped into the room. She was wearing those big, oversized sunglasses and was carrying several colorful shopping bags from the trip she had just finished posting about on social media. She looked full of life, as if she had just stepped out of a magazine. She barely even looked at me before leaning her suitcase against the wall. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice was calm, the kind of voice people use when they've been practicing conversation in their head for a long time. It wasn't angry, it was just decided. I simply nodded. She folded her arms, avoided looking at me, and quietly said, "I think maybe we should just be friends." Then she waited. She stood there, expecting me to ask 100 questions. She expected me to cry, beg, or start a big argument. Instead, I just leaned back in my chair and calmly replied, "Okay, I agree." Natalie blinked twice, looking totally surprised. The confidence disappeared from her face instantly. Natalie looked like she was sure she had heard me wrong. "What?" she whispered. I repeated myself just as calmly as before. "You said we should just be friends." "I agree with you." For several seconds, she simply stared at me in total silence. That was not how the talk was supposed to go. She had prepared herself for me to fight back, or to plead for another chance, not to just accept it. "Ryan, aren't you even going to ask me why?" she asked. I gave a small shrug of my shoulders. If someone has already decided in their heart they don't want to be my partner anymore, asking them to explain the reasons won't change how they feel. She slowly sat down across from me, looking far less certain than when she walked through the door. "I thought we'd talk about it first," she admitted. I smiled sadly at her. "We have been talking about our marriage for over a year, Natalie. Today is just the first day that one of us finally stopped and actually listened to what the other was saying." Natalie rested both of her hands on the table and stared at them instead of looking at my face. "You're acting like you've already accepted this," she said. I nodded slowly. I accepted it when I realized I was the only person left who was still trying to fix what was broken between us. She frowned, looking very confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. I took a slow breath. "Every time I suggested we go to counseling and talk to caring experts who could help us, you told me we were just going through a phase. Every time I planned a special weekend for just the two of us, something else always became more important to you. When I told you I felt like we were growing apart, you just laughed and said I was overthinking things." Her shoulders slowly dropped. She remembered every single one of those talks. None of them had seemed important to her at the time because they were uncomfortable. But now, all those small moments had become a mountain that was impossible to ignore. "This trip didn't end our marriage," I said softly. "It just gave me enough quiet time at home to realize I'd already been living alone for a long time, even while I was still wearing this wedding ring." Natalie's eyes filled with tears as she finally looked up at me. "There wasn't another man," she whispered. I believed her, but strangely, it didn't change a thing. "This isn't about whether you were with someone else," I replied. "It's about you coming home today ready to ask your husband to become just a friend, while expecting him to just sit here and hope you'd change your mind." She covered her mouth, realizing how selfish those words sounded when she heard them out loud. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said. I knew she meant it. "I don't think you did it to hurt me," I answered. "I think you just stopped noticing how much it hurt." The room fell silent. It was a slow fade. Some people break a marriage with one big, bad decision. Others let it fade away slowly, by believing love can survive without real effort or choosing each other every day. Natalie wiped her eyes before asking the big question. "So, when I said we should just be friends, why did you agree so fast? Why didn't you try to save it?" I gave a tired smile. "Because true friends don't make each other beg to feel important." She looked down immediately. I continued speaking quietly. "Friends don't ignore phone calls for days. They don't cancel every plan. And they don't make the other person feel guilty for wanting to spend time with them." Somewhere along the way, I realized you were asking me to accept even less than what a real friendship looks like, while still calling a marriage. Tears rolled down her cheeks now. I honestly thought saying let's just be friends would give us time to figure things out, she said. I slowly shook my head. A marriage cannot survive when one person keeps stepping backward while expecting the other person to stand still. Natalie reached her hand across the table toward mine, but she stopped when she noticed I didn't move my hand. Is there anything I can do now to make it better? She whispered. I told her the truth. If you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have had a list. 3 months ago, I probably would have said yes. Today, I honestly don't know if there's anything left. She closed her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. I thought you'd fight for me, she admitted. I smiled sadly. I have been fighting for us for a long time, Natalie. You just didn't notice it because I wasn't shouting. I was doing it by staying here, by trying to talk, and by keeping hope alive even when it was getting dark. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we'd ever had. She finally understood that my calmness wasn't because I didn't care. It was the quiet that comes after someone has finally run out of reasons to hold on. Natalie looked around the house we had shared for 10 years. The photos and the bookshelf we built together felt like memories now, not a future. When did you stop believing we could fix this? She asked. I told her I never stopped believing we could fix it. I just stopped believing I could fix it all by myself. She lowered her head as tears fell onto the divorce papers on the table. I kept assuming we'd always have another tomorrow, she whispered. I nodded. Every hard talk became something we'd do later until later just disappeared. Neither of us raised our voices. There was nothing left to argue about. The truth had finally replaced all the excuses we had used for years. 9 months later, our divorce was finished peacefully. There were no courtroom fights or public arguments. A few weeks after everything was over, Natalie mailed me a letter she wrote by hand. She didn't ask me to come back. Instead, she apologized for letting our marriage become an afterthought, while assuming my patience would last forever. I appreciated her honesty because it came without any excuses. Looking back, people often ask why I answered, "Okay, I agree." Instead of trying to change her mind, my answer stays the same. Love should never require you to convince someone to choose you. The moment she asked to become just friends, she had already stepped out of the life we promised each other. I simply accepted the decision she had already made in her heart. Sometimes the quietest answer is the one that really ends a story for good. Today it is finally over.